In the next hour, we want to put a smile on your face, elevate your endorphins, and bring you happiness. Welcome to Say Yes, Be Happy with Nathalie Botros. We spend so much of our lives chasing happiness, it might just be where you least expect it to be. Nathalie and her guests are going to show you how and where to find it. And now, your host, Nathalie Botros.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host. Welcome to my show, Say Yes, Be Happy, where each week I choose a topic that talks to me and makes me happy. And with my guests, we go deeper and find the happy, the positive, and the silver lining on it. This week, we're going to talk about fasting. And as usual, I'm bringing you an expert, actually someone whose family has been in it for the last 100 years. Let me introduce you my guest. He is the managing director of Clinic Buchinger, besides being a member of the family Buchinger Wilhelmi, in Überlingen, Germany. And actually, the clinic just got awarded World's Best Wellness Clinic 2021, which is amazing. His family is the pioneers of fasting with over 100 years experience. His great-grandfather, Dr. Otto Buchinger, has developed his therapeutic fasting method in 1920. And since then, 4 generations of doctors have continued to honor the method and help countless patients to live a healthy and happy life. Please welcome Leo Wilhelmi. Hi, Leo.
Hello, Nathalie. Nice to be
How are
here.
you?
I'm happy, so I'm in the right show.
That's good. That's good. You're always happy, the positive energy. We love that. So, Leo, let's start from the beginning. I mean, I know that your whole family is in this, like for the last 4 generations. How did you, I mean, you grew up with this, but how did you take over the clinic?
Well, so we are the 4th generations. We took over in 2019, and we prepared like other family businesses. So we studied, we had some outside work experience. And of course, we grew up with fasting. So as a young kid, when other friends of mine had medication, for example, for small illnesses, my first attempt to healing myself was through fasting. So I already had this in my upbringing. But when I went to university, I started fasting every time I finished my exams. And this is where I actually checked in the first time into the clinic. So I became a regular guest, a regular patient. And since then, I've been fasting for every 6 months, so twice a year. And at my university, I became the person everybody went to when they had questions about nutrition and fasting, sometimes also happiness, but mostly fasting. And so I kind of slid into this by bringing all my friends here to the clinic and sort of creating their journeys in the clinics. And I was quite good at it. At the end of my studies, I had 15 people that were here with me. And so I decided to join the family business and join this journey of developing the clinics in our time and make fasting more known to the world.
Yeah. So how old were you, like when you started fasting, like young, before like coming to the clinic, your first fast?
So we always joke that in our house, my brother and I were very cautious if we were coughing or showing that we're developing symptoms of a cold or something, because my parents immediately made us fast. So we were so I think my first fast that I can remember is when I got my wisdom teeth out. And we had a ski trip planned, and I was not going to make it because I had to get them out. And my parents said, if you fast, we're sure that you're going to heal faster and you will be able to ski. So there I think I was 9 years old or 10 years old. And this is where I first fasted I think I fasted for 10 days, had my operation, and I was able to make the ski trip. So that was the first fast that I remember.
That's so cool. Well, I mean, actually the first time that I came to the clinic, I think 10, 15 years ago, I was like, I'm not going to fast. I'm just going to do a diet. And then my doctor, Dr. Lishka, was like, no, you have to try fasting. And then like, I loved it so much that I fasted 25 days the first time. So I understand that thing, like, because you feel so happy. But I know that like there's a lot of controversy. There used to be, and now it became fashion. When I started, there was a lot of controversy in those days. Now people are like very into it. So let's speak why we should fast. Like to cure your toothache, to feel better, to be happy. But I mean, like, what are the benefits of fasting?
Well, so first of all, the question why somebody should fast, we always counter and say that there are more reasons why people should fast than people should be eating 3 to 5 meals a day until they die. So our bodies are not made to not fast. We always lived with periods where there was food, so usually before refrigerators and cooling system and supermarkets. Summer was basically the time where there was a lot of food available, and then you had the winter time where there was less food. So people were always fasting and eating. So these were the patterns that we lived for many, many, many years. So actually, if a person asks why they should fast for the first time, I always answer that they are reconnecting with their natural rhythms of their body. And the body is like a hybrid car. So the body has two systems which the body has adapted to perfectly. And the one system is where you're eating, and the other one is where you're fasting. And so if you are asking why you should fast, it's because you should activate the system. You should take advantage of all the benefits that fasting has. So you can harmonize your blood pressure. You can use it as a preventive method, for example, for diabetes. You can lower weight, of course. You can prevent things like a burnout. So you can go when you are exhausted. There's lots of indications that fasting is good for, but basically it's reconnecting you with your natural rhythms. And we observe this with a lot of people who come here for many, many years, that they integrate once a year a fasting period into their lives. And this is actually the way that we've been living for many, many years. Also, if you look at the great religions in the world, every great religion has a period of fasting. It's a period where you are in preparation for an event, and you use this time to have an access to your inner self, but also to sort of harmonize all your activities throughout the year and to make them calmer in a certain period. So
yeah, it's true that, I mean, like the first time that I started fasting, it was like really I wanted to lose weight. But then like over the years, actually it was like beyond that. It was more about the philosophy of fasting, you know, like detoxing from everything, just chilling. I mean, I know that at the clinic, we're going to talk about the clinic in detail. We have the option to not even have a TV, like, you know, like be in this like detoxing, like, you know, like in a different world, let's say. But for me, it was more the feeling better, the well-being of the fasting benefits that I was like looking for, not like the weight. Of course, the weight loss is a plus. Everybody wants to lose weight, but you know what I mean. So yeah. What do you think? I mean, like I used to come just before COVID, because like with COVID, I couldn't travel once a year. But how often do you think people should fast? And how long?
So I can tell you how I do it. I do it every 6 months, and I need a break for at least 2 weeks. So I need a fasting break for 2 weeks. Then I have, let's say, 3 to 4 months where I manage to maintain my weight. I do my sports regularly. I eat in a good way, and I can say no to a lot of things. Then there's this one weekend or this one event where you sort of derail. And for me, I need that impulse again of these 2 weeks of fasting to sort of go back to my rhythm. And these periods become longer and longer the older I get. And in general, this is also what we observe with the people here. It's once or twice a year. Sometimes it's also every 2 years. There is no clear answer. Just everybody knows for themselves. For example, there's people who come here for 3 to 4 weeks, fast 3 to 4 weeks, and then they do it once a year. Then there's people who come for 10 days, and then they come twice a year. So it's actually listening to yourself. There's also people who react totally different to fasting. There's people who are extremely introverted you don't see them. They're in their room. They do their walks on their own. They take a therapy. They go to the sports. And then there's people who are all over the place. They talk to everyone. They're always in groups. They want to interact. And so in general, if you do it for the first time, you see how it feels. And then you know when it's good for you to come back, or you can come to our place, but you can also do it wherever you want to. But it's good to have a break.
Of course, yeah. So, but for example, like if like we want to get like the benefits out of the fast, we should do like for 3 days, we should do like for a week. Like what is the minimum? Because I know that at the clinic we have like, you know, the preparation to go into fast because it's a clinic. But if we decide to do it, for example, at home, we can like just do for 3 days. It will be beneficial, or it's not worth it.
So if you, for example, if you want to do a fasting with our method, with the Buchinger Wilhelmi protocol, then we always make sure that the digestion and the intestinal tract is, let's say, empty. So you take a laxative, you prepare yourself, and then you go into the fasting. You get the calories in liquid form, so in form of juice, tea, and honey, and a broth. And if you sort of switch your metabolism into this fasting metabolism, and you go out of the fasting, it doesn't matter if in 2 or 3 days is already sort of switched into that metabolism, and then you start eating again like there's no tomorrow. Let's say you go to big dinner, or then you will have problems. So you will have a digestion problems, and of course, if you're young and you're not, you don't have anything, so this might work, but we don't suggest you do that, because also the benefits of these 3 days will be less. So if you want to do something at home, you can do, for example, the intermittent fasting protocol. That means
I want to talk to you about that. Yes. What is it? Like, let's talk about that and the benefits of it.
Yeah. So in general, fasting it's not a term that is protected. So there's lots of different fasting methods, let's say like that. We have one of them that we sort of specialized over the last 100 years, where we have lots of research experience with 6,000 patients a year that do them. But there's also others. So let's say if you want to do it at home, and you want to do a fasting experience, you can do the intermittent fasting experience at home, which means that you have to, we call this the eating window. So you usually have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you squeeze your meals into a short eating window, so let's say you're not a breakfast person, so you don't eat in the morning, you just have, let's say, tea or water, and you don't eat in the morning, and then you have lunch at, let's say, at 12, and then you have your dinner early, let's say at 6. So your eating window is between 12 and 6, and the rest of the day you're fasting. So you're going into the night, into the next morning, where you leave a window of, let's say, 18 hours. You can also have a bigger window up to 14 hours, so between 14. So starting with 14 hours of fasting on a day, if the day is 24 hours, so if you fast 18, so 14 to 18 hours in that day, you're sort of going into that fasting metabolism for a certain time. We say the body switches from eating to the fasting metabolism around 14 days. 14 hours. If you don't eat for 14 hours, you switch into the fasting metabolism. So let's say you fast for 18 hours a day. After 14 hours, that means you have 4 hours of fasting metabolism per day. And if you do this for many, many days, if you add physical activity, then you can start benefiting from the fasting metabolism.
So, and during like those periods, like, you know, like between, let's say 12 and 6 where we eat, can you eat as much as you want, or like you can, you know, you have to like be careful as well? Or like, what I mean is like you have to eat at 12 and 6, or like from 12 to 6 you can keep snacking even if it's carrots?
I mean, of course, it's depending on what you eat. If you want to lose weight, for example, then you should lower your calories, you should stop eating carbs, you should stop. But in general, you can have, let's say, a normal diet. If you already have a normal diet, then you can have a normal meal. If you want to reduce weight, of course, you need to look at what you eat. in theory, you can do whatever, you can eat whatever you want, but of course, depending on your goals, if you want to feel lighter, have more energy, lose weight, then you should already look at what you're eating. So I'd suggest that you go for the Mediterranean diet, so vegetable based, no red meat, no alcohol. Sorry for that.
Well, my listeners, they will drink their alcohol, but don't put sugar. Don't drink cocktails. At least,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, like that's like the little part where I know that we all want everything, and then like people think that like intermittent fasting, if you do it, like it's magic, you're gonna lose weight and then you can eat and drink whatever you want during those 6 hours period. But I guess like nothing good happens fast.
What's interesting, people always say, oh, I have to wait 14 hours. Oh, is it already 14 hours? In general, once you're hungry, and this is the most important thing about intermittent fasting, if you want, the real hunger shows you when your body has switched into the other metabolism. And people never feel hungry nowadays. You just eat because it's 12 or it's 6, or it's breakfast. And actually, with intermittent fasting, so for example, a person that has a lot of physical activity doesn't need to have 14 hours or 12 hours to switch, So, but it's basically going back to your natural rhythms. And the most important thing is to feel hungry again. It sounds very simple, but if you ask people, when was the last time that you ate when you felt hungry, they will answer it's usually not the case. Usually it's time, or it's the social time with the family or with colleagues. So it's going back to the natural rhythm.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Well, I'm getting questions coming in, but we're going to take our first break and then we'll answer them after the break. So we're talking with Leo from Buchinger Clinic in Germany, and I see you just after the break.
You're listening to Say Yes, Be Happy. To reach our show today, we invite you to phone in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Or send an email to bvg@thebon-vivantgirl.com. Now, back to Say Yes, Be Happy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host. I'm talking with Leonard Wilhelmi from the Buchinger Clinic. He's the managing director of the clinic and the 4th generation of the Buchinger family. And just before the break, we were talking about intermittent fasting. And we were saying during the break, I had some questions saying that can we like change the hours depending on our age? And Leo was explaining that the optimum it's 16, 18 because like it's the natural way of doing it, because at 4 people would be home in the past, basically. So you were saying like the breakfast, skip the breakfast. It's funny because like when I never liked having breakfast, and always like since when I was a kid, they were like, no, you have to have breakfast. It's, like it's the most important meal of the day. But if I have breakfast, I'm hungry all day long. So, and when I discovered fasting, I was like, okay, I like this. And actually, I was naturally doing the intermittent fasting without even thinking. And you were, I think, talking about that, the breakfast.
Yeah, so for us, intermittent fasting is not a diet. It's not something that you do for you can do this for a couple of weeks, but in general, it's actually something that can work throughout your whole life if you want it. And naturally, people tend to have breakfast, lunch, and then a light dinner, or they skip breakfast and they focus on dinner time because this is where the family comes together. They love cooking. And then we always suggest that they don't force themselves to change the dinner, if dinner is the most important time of their life with the family. So the question everybody should ask themselves is, what kind of a person are they, breakfast or dinner? And then try to either eliminate one of the two, or for example, what also people do here at the clinic is that they do a yogurt muesli, like the sort of yogurt and fruits and granola or whatever, a little bit of linseed oil, and then they bring it to work and then they eat it once they feel the hunger coming. So what I'm trying to say is, don't focus too much on how many hours should I stay in fasting mode, how many hours can I eat. Of course, the eating window should be pretty short, and just observe your real hunger. And it's going to be easier if you live in accordance with your hunger and in accordance with your lifestyle choices. So either you're a breakfast person or a dinner person. And then you can try out expanding the fasting periods throughout the day, see what kind of results you want to reach. So if it's weight loss, then see how your weight loss goes, add in a little physical activity. If you want to just have more energy and feel more alert and vivid and be able to concentrate better, then you can also try and change just in accordance with your lifestyle. It's just about, don't follow just
the numbers. Yeah,
like
it's like it's basic. Yeah, it's basically mindfully eating. It's like really listening to your body. I think fasting, I noticed that like when I travel, when I go on vacation, my focus is not about eating. So it's like, like at night, like you have like the big meal, like you enjoy, but during the day you're like busy. But on a daily life, as you said before, it's like we wake up, okay, let me eat something so I'm not hungry. Like we always have like this fear that we're going to be hungry later on, and we force ourselves. And then like it's lunchtime, like for people who work, I guess, they're like, oh, it's lunchtime, I have to eat something, otherwise I'm going to be hungry. So listen to your body and your hunger. And I think the food is like more delicious when we're really hungry and craving it.
So discover your real hunger. The distinction between being hungry and I want something to eat. This is appetite.
Yeah.
Stay away from snacking. Snacking is the biggest enemy because it takes you out of the metabolism. And try and if you can, not eat too late. This has lots of different reasons. But then also, if you want this to be an integral part of your life and not just a diet, then try to see for yourself what also, if the whole family comes together at breakfast, if you need to see all your clients for lunch, then maybe dinner is the thing to skip or to eliminate for. But this is something that's very individual and very, very, every person is different.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the clinic, you have like your fasting protocol and we're going to go in deep, but at home, some people do this master cleanse. What are your takes about that? With the cayenne pepper and like maple syrup or something like that.
So, I mean, there are lots of different diets or things that take a few elements out of different fasting methods or the fasting protocol, and then also focus on the intestine and the gut. And the intestine and the gut play an integral role in the regulation of lots of different aspects in your body. So focusing just on one aspect and doing this in a kind of, I mean, we've heard of the master cleanse and places like New York, and where things like that pop up, and then everybody's doing it at the same time, and we are suddenly confronted with, what do you think about that, and what do you think? For us, it's more important that you see this from a holistic, let's say, like a holistic point of view.
Approach,
cleaning or cleansing your system, and then sort of going back slowly towards eating. This is in general what we do at the clinic. We cleanse the gut. We do this in our way. We take a salt, and then you sort of clean your gut. And then during fasting, we only eat calories in liquid form, and we do a colonic cleanse every 3 days, because we've noticed that the hunger and the headaches and all of this is much better if you don't have the activity in your gut. You give the gut a holiday, and you sort of give the gut also the time to renew and to regenerate. And then when we break the fast, and this is the difference maybe also to the master cleanse, we have a team here of 25 people in the kitchen and nutritionists and all that slowly rebuild your eating habits. So you start with a little bit of an apple puree, and then you go from 600 calories to 800 to 1,200. And we slowly build up your gut activity and your intestinal activity. And this is sort of a gentle way into the fasting and out. And with the master cleanse, sometimes people focus only on cleansing and then not on the rebuilding part. And
of course, yeah, the rebuilding is very important as much as like doing. And sometimes like when my friends, they're like, oh, I did master cleanse, and then like they break it with like food. I'm like, how can you do that? Your body needs, some rest. Like, you have to like teach your body to eat. So someone is asking about the salt flush, the Glober salt. I can say as an experienced person in that thing, it's like before that, like before how it works, it's like, I think everybody always asks me like, yeah, fasting, it's so difficult. How can you live without eating? But actually fasting is easier than eating a diet. And then like, I was asking this to one of the doctors at the clinic, and he was like, well, if you eat an apple, the body is going to say, oh, there is food. So it's expecting more food. If you stop, they're going to say, oh, well, I'll hang out like without any food. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the gut and the intestine is a big topic here, especially in fasting, because as we talked about before, it's a total regeneration of your intestine. Your intestine and your gut has billions of bacteria. It's like a concert of genes switching on and off, and we know that the gut in German, or in English, when you say you have a gut feeling.
Yeah.
So the gut is regulating so many things in your whole body that is now slowly being discovered also in lots of studies. And for us, we have simply observed in our practice here that when we sort of clean the gut and you prepare it for the fasting, you have much less intestinal pain, you have much less gas, you have much
headache,
less simple activity from the last food that you digested and that is still in your intestinal tube. If this is kept empty, it's also an indicator for the body, oh, I have to switch into the fasting metabolism because I have to get the energy from somewhere. The salt that we use is something that we've been using for 100 years, but we also have different options in case, for example, somebody doesn't like it, somebody doesn't do good for that person. Then we also have different other types of laxatives, but this is for us an integral part. And every time somebody says, "Oh, this is not for me," of course, it's not the most, let's say, pleasant thing, but in the end, it's just shown to be more effective. And I know this from a lot of my friends, my personal friends, who I sort of have to accompany at home. Every time they did it, so they just cleaned that system, their fasting experience was much better.
Of course, it's easier because like, you don't have anything left. So it's like you can start in a way fresh, but I mean, it's like easier and you don't have headaches and everything. So let's talk a little bit deep about the clinic. We arrive. You can take a break. I can talk about it if you want. No, I'm kidding. But it's like when we arrive at the clinic, but I have to say this, like whenever I arrive at the clinic with my sister, we always laugh because we see people arriving the first day, they look a bit angry and grayish. By day 3, there's a huge smile and then their face is lighting up. So what is the magic that you guys are doing? I know there's one thing. You never say no. Like whenever like we say, okay, I don't like that. Okay, there's a solution. I've never heard anyone at the clinic saying no for something. Always a solution, which is amazing. But health-wise, how is it? It's like, we arrive and what happens? Let's say that.
Okay, so for us, so we're a clinic specialized on fasting and nutrition. We have approximately, in Germany, we have 300 employees. We have 11 doctors. We have a big staff of therapists, so from massage to physio to osteo. We have a big sports department. We have nurses. We have a lot of people who are simply there to accompany you throughout your fasting experience. And these fasting experiences for us are a minimum of 10 days and more. So people do minimum 10 days, and let's say, for example, we just had 2 people here who completed 40 days fasting. So we have the ability to medically, therapeutically supervise people here in long fasting periods. But a minimum of 10 days looks like that. You arrive, The day you arrive, you have you see a doctor. The doctor sort of makes a checkup and says, "Okay, Mrs. Botros, what do you want to do here? Okay, you want to, I don't know, you want to feel better. You have a certain problem with your shoulder, or you have a certain indication. You have a diabetes, or you have a metabolic syndrome, whatever." And then you decide with your doctor on your nutritional protocol. This can be fasting, so this is about 300 calories in liquid form, or you choose a diet of, let's say, 800 calories, 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories, a ketogenic diet, whatever kind of diet is best for your specific need. The doctor makes recommendations also for therapies, for activities to do, if you want to do yoga or Pilates or meditation or walking. We have 3 walking groups, silent, A, B, C. So the doctor is your first starting point. If you want to fast, then you do 1 day where you have a low caloric vegetable meal, no salt, which is sort of the day in between fasting, like a transition day, if you like. Then after this day, you take the salt. This is your first day of fasting. On your day of fasting, in general, it looks like that. You have in the morning tea with a little bit of honey. You have in the afternoon your juice, and in the evening your broth. So in total, this is 300 calories. The day is structured with a program. So you have meditation in the morning, light activity. You have a liver package, which is supporting the liver and detoxing in your room, which is done by the nurse. Then you have walking, you have a therapy if you want, and at night you have some sort of lecture, or I don't know, there's a movie being shown, a concert, somebody's talking about art. And the fasting like that is 6 days. So you have the first day of vegetable and transition day, 6 days of fasting, and then you break the fast on the 7th day. And you're slowly readapting on day 7, day 8, day 9, day 10, back to food, and then you have completed your fast. So for us, it's not 10 days where you're fasting 10 days. It's like slowly you go into the fasting, you're fasting, and then you're breaking the fast and you're going out. And you see the doctor on day 3, day 6, and on your last day. And you're sort of always being monitored by the nurse. The nurse checks on your vitals every morning, every day, blood pressure, talks to you. The doctor sees you. We do a laboratory test at the beginning where you have your blood results. Then the doctor can sort of adjust maybe after the laboratory results. And so this is like a 10-day package. And if you choose to do 14 days, 21 days, 28 days and more, it's sort of the routine continues with the supervision from the doctor, where you're always checking up. Is your therapy okay? Exactly.
So basically, you're surrounded by medicals, like you can have access to doctors or nurses all the time, and they kind of follow. Is it possible that someone comes, and you, after their blood test, you're like, okay, you cannot fast? Do we have to have like a certain age, a certain weight? Maybe, like, is there like a protocol for this?
Yes. So there are. This is the Buchinger fast that we've been doing for many, many years, but it's not for everyone. We also have people who come here where the doctor sees the person for the first time, and then they decide together that the fasting impulse would be too strong. So as you said, maybe somebody is a bit older, already a bit weak. There are a few counterindications also where we decide together with the patient that it's better, for example, to do an 800 calorie or a different so fasting and 800 calories, for example, or intermittent fasting and other things. And sometimes, for example, we also have people who've been coming for many, 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 many years. We have our champion who's just been here. He's been already here 94 times. He's 92, and he's been fasting all his life. And when he was around 60 or 70, he decided himself to do the 800 calories because he saw it at his age, and with his special physique, it was doing him the same good as fasting has been doing him before. So it's not that everybody here has to fast or can fast.
I understand. We're going to take our second break and we're going to continue about that. And I have like more questions coming in. I'm talking with Leo Wilhelmi from Buchinger Clinic. I see you just after the break.
You're listening to Say Yes, Be Happy. To reach our show today, we invite you to phone in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. Or send an email to bvg@thebon-vivantgirl.com. Now, back to Say Yes, Be Happy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nathalie Botros, your host. I'm talking with Leo Wilhelmi, and who is the managing director of Buchinger Clinic in Germany. And his family are pioneers on fasting, and we're discussing about fasting, the benefits, and who should fast, who shouldn't. You should all do it if you can, if your physique lets you. Just before the break, we were talking about the clinic, how the protocol works. But during the break, I got a question. Someone is asking, when one has low blood pressure issues or feels weak and lacks physical stability and feels the need to eat to regain strength, is it possible to do fasting? And also when doing rigorous sports, that's her case. Like, can you fast? Like when you work out like very hard? I used to.
So,
okay, so start with the beginning part, if they have low blood pressures, if they can fast.
So again, I won't make any medical suggestions. I'm not a doctor, and we always suggest that if you have certain indications, then you should consult your doctor or somebody who's supervising you medically before you enter a certain protocol. I can only say that in the study that we did, that we've published in the journal PLOS ONE, you can check it out on our site. We've had results also with blood pressure that were very promising. Interestingly, also, we realized that those who had high blood pressure harmonized downwards, and those who had low pressure harmonized upwards. So they all met at the good in the good section of your blood pressure. So the answer would be, it depends. Depends on the fasting protocol that you do. So it depends on if you're doing, for example, intermittent fasting, or you're doing our protocol, or you're doing another protocol. So fasting is a broad term, and you need to choose which protocol you follow. For the physical activity, we actually suggest physical activity while you're fasting, but we're not suggesting to run a marathon or to go over the top of your capacity. So we suggest light physical activity, but we see people who are here who actually continue with their physical activities pretty normal, but also this is concerted with the doctor, and also with the personal trainers who do all sorts of tests before you enter the gym and the sports program. So
yeah. So some people who, like, for example, I guess like their blood pressure drops, like when they feel weak and they have to eat something, how they can do the fasting with the juice, like when it happens, like to regain the forces.
I mean, if
maybe those people should,
I mean, again, as I said, if you have an indication of low blood pressure, or you are working out, and you should really consult your doctor before you do anything like that. And I'm not going to make any recommendation, because we are trying to be a serious partner in fasting, and we try to not sort of go into these suggestions without knowing the specific case. This is why here every patient sees a doctor and decides with the doctor. So
of course, yeah. So if we come to the clinic anyway, we're going to consult with the doctor. If you want to do it at home, don't do it just because like it's fashion or like you heard about it. Just go and consult your doctor, basically. Right.
Yeah.
So I have someone else who says, "Oh, I was in Buchinger in 1986, and it was life changing." Yeah. Oh wow. And I fasted for 25 days. Absolutely loved it. Would love to come back one day. Probably one of the best thing I did in my life. Thank you. Yes, Nathalie.
Thank you to the person. Yeah.
So that's positive. Who's that? Yeah. Yeah. So Yeah, someone else says that they had blood pressure and then they do it twice a year, the fasting, but they do home fasting. Yeah, so fasting, it's true that it has like ups and downs, but for example, kids, I mean, you started, but you when was the first time that you did it at the clinic, you know, like not like fast for a few days? Because I know that the clinic you don't accept people over 18, under 18,
Exactly,
right?
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I fasted because I grew up in this family of people who work in the fasting domain. So for me, it was more getting to know your own regenerative power that you have in your body. We see this here with people who, for example, have diabetes type 2, and they get told they can never get off their medication for the rest of their lives, and they enter our fasting protocol, and they at one point, medically supervised, are able to drop all their medications. So the power that we have as individual people to regenerate our own bodies is something that we discover here. And we have the rule of only people over 18, or if you're 16 and you're accompanied by your parents, that you can do this, because teenagers or adolescents have a lot of different it's a special time when you're a kid, or you're a teen, or you're not an adult. So for us, this was the cutoff where we take responsibility. Yeah. But of course, you can fast at an early age. I did it, and it did me a tremendous good. I started, as I said, when I was in university. And the interesting thing is, for example, my friends that I brought along from university that fasted for one time when they were, I don't know, 21. Sometimes I'm 34 now, 14 years later, I get calls from them that now they say, I know I need a fasting experience now, because I've done it when I was 21, and now I feel like I need it. So actually what we do is we show people what they can do themselves simply by fasting, simply by reducing their caloric intake, using their own reserves in their body, like a hybrid car, switching this other metabolism that is in their body since always, and showing that they have this capacity to regenerate, to to get calm, to sleep better, and to go back to their normal routine, energized and regenerated. So,
yeah. And also, you were telling me that fasting has benefits to be happy. You just conducted some researches on it, right?
Yes. So we did the first study that we did. So we have 6,000 patients a year. So in our Spanish clinic in Marbella, and our clinic in Überlingen, Lake of Constance, and we've always observed things. So we've been for 100 years now. We've observed patterns where people that come here and fast, for example, all feel good, they lose weight, they harmonize their blood pressure, they lower their glucose levels, and all of this. But we never had a research to back it up. Always people, when we were discussing this in medical congresses, at one point people would say, okay, this is very nice what you're saying, but do you have a scientific research to back what you're saying? And we always said no, because we're not a hospital, a university hospital. We're a small family business that specialized in this field. But at one point, we decided to do this, because we always had these people complaining that there's no research to back it up. So we did our first study, which was immediately the largest fasting study in the world, because we have the biggest laboratory with fasting human beings. These are not mice or yeast or bacteria. These are human people who tell you when they're sad, who tell you when they're happy. And with them, we did the first study with 1,422 subjects. And we measured if the protocol that we have is safe, which was yes, it was safe. Nobody died. Nobody had any cardiac, things. Secondly, is it medically beneficial? And we showed that weight dropped significantly. All of these things happened that I was talking about earlier. And the third thing that we measured is the well-being throughout their fasting experience. So how do people feel? And if you tell somebody that you're going fasting, some of them might say, "Oh, poor you, you'll feel miserable, and you have to pay for that, and you have to travel to Germany to complete your fast." And with this study, we wanted to show that the contrary is actually true. People feel better, they feel lighter, and they feel like they could sort of hug the whole world. And as you said, we see this a lot, mostly on the weekends. All the people arrive. Sometimes they arrive, they're stressed. They say, "Oh, this room, I didn't choose this room. There's no light. Oh, the food tastes horrible. Everything is horrible. I want to go home." And then after 2 or 3 days, there's a shift.
Yeah.
And this is like the shift in the metabolism of your body. You switch from one system to the other, and suddenly you feel much, much better. And this gets better every day. And this is what we've shown in the study. And,
yeah. But it's true that as someone who fasts, I know that day 3, I have like this amazing high. Like I feel like so happy. I have like energy. I mean, like I listen always to my body, but day 3, it's like when you feel that high. And I know that a lot of people like come to the clinic to finish their writing, you know, being creative, because like on that high, like they're like on top of their creativity as well. So it's like quite amazing. Someone is saying maybe age is an influencing factor. I think young, maybe not, but whenever I come to the clinic, I see a lot of people who are much, much older than me. You know, like you have, like you said, your rock star client patient, he's like 92, you said?
Yes. So, but as I said, depending, we always choose the protocol that we do here, fasting, diet with intermittent fasting, based on the person.
Of course.
We have 90-year-olds who are physically fit, they are sharp in their mind,
can do it.
And they can, for them, the intervention, the fasting intervention is the one that they choose and that we choose is right for them.
Yeah.
We have 50-year-olds or 30-year-olds where we decide together with them that the fasting is not the right thing to do. So age is maybe it's not age that you're looking at. It's just a general composition of their body.
Exactly. So you have to see the doctor basically before. So people, if you want to go to Buchinger, you can go to their website, buchinger.com, and they have 2 clinics, one in Marbella, one in Germany. Leo, thank you so much. We're out of time, and I have so many more questions. I needed to do 2 slots with you. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for joining me. And if anyone has any other questions, you can send them to me, and I will like forward the questions. But you can find a lot of answers on their website already, and you can find them on social media. And voila. I don't know if you want to say a last word. We have 1 minute left.
Yeah. So in general, everybody who's interested in fasting and the way that we do it, you can also look at our YouTube channel. We commented on every study that we did. We commented on a lot of FAQs also. And in general, what we see now is that people, especially after COVID, find fasting to be one tool to make sense of all the change that has happened around them in the world with the COVID. And so we see that people who come to our place fast to make sense of what has happened. And we invite everybody to come here to try it out. And we welcome everybody who was able to travel.
Yes. Thank you so much, Leo, to joining me. And thank you for everyone to listening. And I find you all next week on Tuesday. And in the meantime, I wish you an amazing week. Bye for now. What do you have to lose? Say yes. Be happy.